Welcome back to the Now Morning Show. We're continuing our Monday edition, and in studio with us is none other than Ghenere Heerah. Ghenere is, well, we have here Nex Gen Gatekeeper, but Ghenere is so much more than that. Good morning, Ghenere, and welcome.
Good morning, Natasha. How are you? Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Good morning to my TTT family. Good morning.
Listen, this energy has been missed so much. It's a pleasure to have you with us in studio this morning because, girl, you are so busy.
I know, but you know, the thing I cannot not mention that the fact that we're both wearing green today. So I think that's the highlights of the interview. You all see that? Wow.
So, Jen...
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, it is what it is. Jen, it's so good to have you with us in studio, and it's so amazing to see your journey over the years from where you started to where you are now and where you're going, and the fact that you are continuing with the message that is you and is essentially your essence and your spirit. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about where you started and where you are today.
Yeah. I mean, I started... You know, I was going to say I started at 21 when I had my first event at Jaffa, you know, in 2015. But I think I started since I was a little girl when I used to talk to myself, you know, and pretend I had this audience. And just the other day, I was going back in memory when I had these little girls, you know, family friends come over at our house and they will dress up, right? And we'll have this nice little beauty time. But I always spoke to them about their inner beauty and who they are. And then look at where I am now at 31. And I'm like, look at how God did what he did. And I honestly think that everything that we do in our adult age, God has got, you know, he created this space since we were younger. You know, it's like more purposeful than anything about like just being goal oriented or just career driven, you know. So it started then, way before 21. Yeah.
It did start before 21, but here you are today, and you've done so much. As you mentioned, your first event at Jaffa, moving now over a decade, you've been to Africa. You are now, well, you're here with us, but you've been in the US as well, leading so much. What was the evolution like of becoming to... What are you doing now? You have so much going on.
Yeah. So I think the key word there that you said is becoming, you know, because we're always becoming. Even in our being, we're still evolving, you know, we're still learning things about ourselves. We make mistakes, but God continues to refine us into the identity that he wants us to do. Yeah, I didn't mean a region, not exactly in Africa, but, you know, through the Middle East. So that was on a mission trip, right? So I had just graduated with my MBA, and I was like, okay, we're going into a career leap now, God, what are we going to do? And he was like, you know, Ghenere, I remember we spoke about missions and service. And that's when I learned and was reminded that my life is no longer my own. And it's no longer about being seen, but it's about making others seen and him being glorified, you know? So, so that was that series. And then going on a trip, just on a vacation trip, you know, how I feel about the next generation. I believe that they're going to finish what we start. Volunteered with a nonprofit, and then they called me back to do some consultancy for the summer. And they were STEM nonprofits, you know, just doing after school programs. But I am not a tech expert. I know nothing in technology. But what I would say boldly is that I am an expert in loving people and loving people correctly. And love languages don't only work with your spouse or with your significant other, but it works even with your teams. And when you love your teams correctly, you bring out the best version in themselves. And basically, that's what I do. So it's leading Next Gen, because even with the teams, they were all under 26 as Gen Zs, and they are whole different planets. I would say that I study them very well. I'm now diving into Gen Alphas, you know, it's a whole different type of mindset. But even though I do work with young girls and I do work with women, I believe the next generation has a huge, crucial part in God's end game. You know, whether it deals with geopolitics, whether it deals with technology, it can do the whole pestle model, but they have a significant space. And as a gatekeeper, that's my role, is to make sure that I guard the truth in order to give it to them to finish what they have to do.
Right, and you've definitely continued to push that from a young age up until now. Now, one of the things you mentioned is working with all these different generations. In your experience, have you witnessed similarities, regardless of the fact that we're spanning different decades? Have you witnessed similarities in spirits and in work ethic?
Little similarities. I think all these generations are a bit different. I think with us, you know, millennials and stuff like that, we are very like driven, we go beyond, we understand that even though we have this position, we may not be happy with something, we still find ourselves doing a lot or going beyond. Like, you know, okay, this is what we do, we have this drive. Whereas Gen Zs now, their mindset is that they're not gonna go the extra. This is not what they feel, so they're not gonna do it. Oh, it's affecting their mental health. Scratch off. Whereas we now, like, we will continue to go through and, you know, push through. They are like, okay, this is not happening. They don't stick you know, to make a decision if they have to withdraw or cut or do anything. And it's really finding that space for them to go beyond their call, you know. So it's very different. However, what I do like is that every generation still understand that they need the next generation.
Right.
So you will still see that Gen Z still tap into millennials still tap into Gen X, and you know, baby boomers and all these different things. So I think that would be the similarity, that they understand they still need to pull something from the generation that went before in order to probably flavor up their culture a little bit in order to do what they have to do. So
we're going to shift the conversation a little bit back to you now, because we're speaking about generations.
Yes.
And one of the ways that you are where you are today is because of the investments of generations before you. I know your father is fundamental in your life. How would you say having that, well, having a solid father figure would have helped you to be where you are today?
Yes, I think my dad has, not I think, I know he has a huge part in who I am today. I would give credit to both of them, you know, because they're definitely a team, my mom and my dad. But going into, you know, the exact question, as a female, a lot of us, a lot of persons, a lot of women may not have that healthy relationship with their dad. You know, and sometimes that has a ripple effect in terms of the decision making and what they do. However, with the healthy space that he is not only just good in what he does, but in terms of how he loves others, you know. And there was a time I had to write something for somebody to send it in for Father's Day, and I said, as much as he is a protector, and as much as he's a provider, and as much as he is a man of God where he takes direction how he leads his family, he's also very emotional. And him being having brave vulnerability is okay when he says, I love you. And him having that space to show that I could express that love to my family, I think has created a safe space for me to know that it's okay for me to be very grounded in my emotions as well as a woman. Because you tend to see that sometimes we may be a bit confused on how do we express this? Should we not? Is this a safe space? Do we hold back? But I think having him in a healthy space has taught me how to love, how to show love, and how to express love, not only to the opposite sex, but to the world, you know? So I think that has had that ripple effect. And because of a healthy marriage as well, it has affected us in that way too.
In a positive way. Now let's speak about your other father, because if it's one thing, as soon as we start talking, there is that mention of God and that core that you have of spirituality. How influential has that been in bringing you to where you are today?
Yeah, he is, his will is the definition of success in my life. And, you know, recently I've been, you know, just really reflecting and saying, you know, Ghenere, everybody will have a 10-year goal, they'll have a, you know, a 5-year goal, they'll know what they have to do. But if I have to tell you, Natasha, the end of the day is his will. You know, from like 4 years ago when I was marketing coordinator for the Falls at Westmoreland Dairy. And I remember when God told me, Ghenere, you have to leave your job. Who leaves their job with no plan? Ghenere did it, right? So that happened, right? But then he shifted my entire life. And I met a Ghenere that I never met before, but he knew that she was there, which was not even about being seen, which was not even about the direction I thought I was going to go. And it became about others. And he holds my future, you know, and I don't want to encourage everybody, encourage Tran Tobago, encourage the world, that, you know, we say things like, oh, God knows the plans, oh, he's the author and finisher of my life. Like, do you understand what that means? You understand, you know, the word says that he goes before us. So God went before me, and 4 years later, this is where I am. I could have never planned this on my own. So that is who he is. His will is the definition of success in my life.
That's beautiful. And now the thing is with that, it's a very powerful thing to say, but to experience it is something completely different. So for those who are listening right now, we're going to say, regardless of generation, what words would you have for them to be able to take that leap of faith particularly and feel that comfort?
Yeah, it's just to believe. A lot of the times we think that, you know, Christ, it's a complicated thing. Oh, what do I have to do? Do I have to stop doing this? Oh, gosh, it's bad habits. How am I going to stop this, boy? How am I going? No. You just have to believe. You have to believe that Jesus came, he died, and he rose again. 3 simple beliefs. The beliefs, you know. And you have to understand that he is God over all, you know. And sometimes we say lightly that he's the beginning and the end. But, you know, when we say that he's the beginning and the end, we forget to say that he's everything in between. And for him to be in every in between, we have to be grounded in the fact that who he is, believe in who he is, believe he's Christ, he's only one God. He is God. And that is, to me, the beginning of all of the transformation in your life moving forward.
Wonderful.
Better said than done, but it's just to believe.
Yes,
yeah.
To believe. Ghenere, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
You.
It's been a pleasure.
Yes.
Hoping that we'll have you back again soon.
Yes, we will. And thank you for wearing green.
Of course.
Yeah.
Ghenere Heerah, Nex Gen Gatekeeper, and so much here, more rather, faith, family, females, and the future. And stay tuned, because the future of the Now Morning Show is bright. We'll be back after this break.